I came for Pinterest, but I've stayed for everything else. But it all leads together into one big circle of this marketing machine kind of. And it's just allowing me really to be freer to be able to do my craft in the way that I want to and run my business the way I want to, making sure it fits into my life without having to rely on just chasing customers, trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Jill, thank you so much for coming back and chatting with me a second time. Now, last year, we actually had a conversation about how you've been using my course Pin Potential and sort of the different ways that you've changed and grown your business. Now, here's the thing. You're such a superstar that when I put a call out to do another feature of an amazing person who's had success in Pin Potential, you raised your hand, and I thought we would do something a little bit different, that I'm going to ask you some questions and to share your experience on sort of the other parts of my program that not everybody knows about. Before we do that, can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your business?
You bet. I'm Jill Nixon. I am a potter. My business is Chickabee Pottery. Primarily, I do functional pottery. So I make mugs. One of my best sellers is ramen bowls, which is kind of where I'm really pushing the business to. I do some decorative seasonal stuff, and it's just kind of for fun to fill in, but really kind of leaning towards the star products that I'm doing right now. And I met you several years ago. It started with Pin Potential, and after I finally got my rear in gear and started working the program, I have had great success, and it's a great marketing tool for me for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think as like a handmade business or somebody who's in a creative space, the amount of progress and changes and like everything you've done is incredible. Maybe it would be good for us to paint a little picture about what did your business look like before? So like, what were you doing? How were you selling? Did you have a website? Were you on social media or marketing? Like, what did things look like sort of before I got my hands into helping you?
Well, really, primarily it was in person. I do have a small booth in a local shop that I keep stocked of just different products. But the majority of everything was done at in-person markets, which, while wonderful, is very taxing. And it was great at the time, but I'm now moving my business to more online. So I've always had the website, but really it wasn't very active. I really felt like I was just spinning my wheels, just trying to get people to join and become followers with social media, with Instagram and Facebook. And I have one small face group, like a local face group that works very well. But everything else was just, just spending lots of time and lots of hours marketing really without much return. So then when I finally started getting with Pin Potential and understood Pinterest to be what it is, which is not social media, which is a visual search engine is how you explain it. And it just kind of clicked, and it works very well for me to show my products. But my very favorite part of it is that I can schedule things ahead of time, even for a month out with only a few hours work. It's evergreen. Once I started using Pin Potential, I would say that my hours of marketing have reduced substantially, but the return has grown immensely. So
yeah, what I will say is, as somebody who's like very, very proud of you, is like you learn, you implement, and then you come with questions. Do you think that learning style is something like, there's something obviously, like you said, once you decided to get your hiney into gear, it was just about like the doing, but you're also really good about like understanding, okay, this is like what I'm learning. I'm going to execute. Then I'm going to come back to the program, to the calls in the coaching where you get support and ask your unique questions. Hey, this is what's happening. I have a new product launch, or this is what I'm looking to get more people on my email list. What do you think it is about that sort of like style of learning or, getting that type of help that has worked for you?
Well, I think so much of it is it's overwhelming. I mean, I think at first it is totally like drinking out of the fire hose. It's just so much. And it's, my understanding of how it worked took me a while to kind of get it. And then being able to be in the community and kind of take little bits and pieces at a time For me, it just has worked so much better. And like you said, I learn something, I implement it, may or may not work, usually works, but I usually have some questions about it. So I'm either able to hop in on the weekly call and say, hey, how about this little thing? We just solved that little problem. So it's just one tiny step at a time instead of trying to roll out a whole program. But one of the other things that I have found really unique about your program is you have, I don't know how you find these people, but you have the best experts. I mean, they are just, they blow my mind. And so it's really nice the things that you bring into us, for instance, just learning how to do the videos. Wow, that was just, it has saved me so much time. The learning curve is kind of summarized for me, so I'm not trying to do everything on my own. And then the same thing, I can come back and say, okay, what do you all think about this video? And then I get really good feedback. And the product just keeps improving and it gets smoother. So every week it just gets a little easier. And ironically, it's a lot less time spent doing the marketing, the better I get at it. And so
yeah, well, your confidence and your ability to do is just incredible. Also too, it's like how much your website has changed, your approach to email marketing, your understanding of video and then how the pieces come together. It's funny because you bringing up the topic of our guest experts, I do a really awful job at actually talking about all the extra things that happen in Pin Potential, especially so when people invest in the course, they come in and they get access to a certain set. I try not to give people everything, but then we do have the option either, actively when you come in, you get included coaching, and then you have the ability to to keep coming to future calls after your cohort is complete. And that curation of guest experts, I really do. I want to bring in people who are like me, but about Pinterest. So they love teaching video. They love teaching analytics or email marketing. And I think that as an online business owner, especially someone like you who's moving from in-person, sort of more traditional markets, there's so much to learn. And so sometimes having sort of somebody say, hey, listen, I found somebody who's really good at teaching Instagram marketing, somebody who's really good at teaching SEO, and we're just going to get this little bite-sized training that you'll get something and be able to go away and improve one small aspect of your business. And I really don't tell people a lot about all these extra sort of things that can help you if you are ready to learn. So you mentioned the guest trainings. What do you think, where do you think the biggest impact has been? You mentioned moving from one model of a booth and in person, you're making that transition to online. What do you think the biggest impact has been for that course and program has had on your business?
A couple of things. First of all, just kind of everything being systematized. So, everything that I learn and implement, it just kind of goes into the system. So I'm not reinventing the wheel every time I try to do something. I found a way to repurpose most of what I do. So the blog leads to the email, leads to the pins. And so it's just, I think time saving and being able to move my business to more of an online, that has really had a big impact. I'm not sure if I really answered your question.
I guess what I'm interested in is as an online business owner, there's so many parts of it. And I think you're a really good example of that. Okay, we want to bring people from Pinterest to my website. Well, next thing we know on the next call, we're talking about your landing page or your email opt-in. And then once they're on your email list, then we got to think about your email marketing. And I think that's why I often say to people is you come to me and Pin Potential to learn about Pinterest, but you stay because we're going to work holistically on all these other aspects of your business. And I feel like you're a really good example of that, right? It's we're working on the Pinterest things, but we're also working on your website. We're working on your online shop, your email marketing, the SEO, the video, and all this stuff works together. But sometimes we can very easily view it as not, this is this and this is this. But really, I think it's all part of the sort of success story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. Definitely I came because I didn't know and understand Pinterest, which I learned. But beyond Pinterest, there's a million different pieces to the puzzle. And it does, it all ties together. If I just put pins out in the world and they just are floating there, it doesn't do any good. They have to know how to find me. And then when they find me, I need to be able to follow up and say, hey, come join my community and be part of that. So it certainly is integrated. And, I was actually going to say the same thing. I came for Pinterest, but I've stayed for everything else, and still Pinterest is very much a big part of it, but it all leads together into one big circle of this marketing machine kind of. So
yeah. It's so hard for me to put that in. Like, we talk all the time about copy and messaging, and I don't want to overwhelm people who haven't heard about me or my programs before, but really that's the goal, because if I can help you with those other pieces, I can help you, whether you're changing business models, whether you're making more money, or you have better systems. Like, for me as a coach or someone who teaches marketing, the idea is that, like, you come for Pinterest, but we're going to work on all the bits and pieces. And I know that you're going to build a business that you love, or that allows you to have time to work on your craft. Like, you're a creative person. You're kind of like, yeah, you have to show people your pottery, and, but you probably didn't start this thinking, I just can't wait to spend hours and hours a week marketing my business or writing a blog post, or, that type of thing.
In learning how to do that, though, it really has given me the freedom to change my business. So I'm taking my business in a totally different direction, and it's not that scary because I have the tools behind it now, where if I didn't know and understand all of this, I would be like, ooh, that's just really scary to kind of move 90% of my business from in-person to online. And it's feeling really good. And I do have to share with you, just Pinterest specific. So the past 6 weeks of my life have been a lot of lifing has happened. I've been out of state 3 times, and I have not had a full week at home for a month and a half. And one thing that kind of had to give was my pins. I was like, I don't have time to sit down and do a month of them. So I'm like, it's okay, I'm just going to let it go. Well, I just looked at my analytics. My outbound clicks, which is my most favorite thing, because that means they're going to my website, has actually increased in this 6 weeks. So even though life kind of had me too busy to deal with my business has been growing behind the scenes. And I don't know of anything else that would have worked that way, because if it was Instagram or Facebook, I mean, you have to post every day. And with this, I'm not saying, that's a good business practice to kind of ignore it, but.
Well, that's just it, right? I think we can all have like the best laid plans, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But when we don't have that layer of like a safety net, like, it's funny because people say to me, like, they'll feel bad. Oh, I haven't posted for the last month. And I'm like, I don't mind if you were doing it before. Those pins should be bringing in new people, should be that evergreen sort of like layer of work that isn't like the slot machine that, Instagram and, I got to get back on the posting in my Facebook group. Like, we know those things work. All good marketers will say, any channel or platform can work, but sometimes the algorithms demand constant babysitting or engagement. And I think that I'm no different from you, right? Like, in my own, if I even look at myself and my own marketing since I got started in 2010, I could not give myself an A+. There are time periods like in the summer, or there's just times where my energy is down, or I forgot to get some content queued up and my own schedule has gone dry. But the point is that it's a type of marketing that works for you when life is lifing, when you need to walk away. And I think that the effort that you've put in over the last year has had a tremendous impact, because you've also learned, implemented, refined, come for feedback. You also will say, like, oh, I'm experiencing this unique problem. What should we do about it? And, I think that's what's very special about Pin Potential, is from day one, it's been designed sort of as an environment that you can come and we can look at it together and ask questions and, refine. And that is really, it's like a science experiment, right? Like, it's like, we have to work on it together. Your business much more. Like, I can observe you and watch and look at your website, but you understand your audience. You understand your product. What actually, on that note, talking about product, You mentioned that you're sort of moving in the direction of focusing on particular types of products. And I feel like with what's been happening with your marketing, with your growth, Pinterest, but also just the changes you're making to your marketing have helped sort of inform that evolution.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the feedback from Pinterest is what has kind of led this when I realized that I kind of have like a star product, the most attention
Yeah.
that gets
Yeah.
be my favorite thing to make. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just do this? And so,
Yeah.
it's really simplified my life not to have
I love that.
a bazillion different things trying to figure it out. It's
Mhm.
like, I got this attention. This was the star product. I can make that. I can make that still enjoy pottery in a much easier way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just can kind of focus on different aspects instead of trying to figure out what customers want, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that can be dangerous territory, right? When you start asking customers all the time. Well, you're an artist, right? Like you know your craft. You know what you enjoy making as well, and that can be hard, right? When there's a unicorn moment, right? Where like what you enjoy making plus the information and data that you've received from Pinterest on your products have helped you identify that star product. What would you say, like, if you were thinking about what you see happening for you, like, really over the last year, you've done so many incredible things. Where do you see yourself over the next year? Like, I feel like you killed your to-do list, you crushed your goals, you're in this transition stage. Where do you sort of see things continuing to refine and grow for you over the next year?
Ironically, just simplifying. Everything is
Yeah.
simpler, giving me more
Yeah.
outside of the business, and so
Yeah.
I really see the business being more online, less in person, for sure. I mean, 100% sure have made that, which just, it allows me to run my business on my own timeline and my own terms without having to show up for events that, if life is lifing and I have that event, I still have to show up, so it's going to give me a lot of freedom. And, one thing that's really nice is, even though I've been gone and kind of not been paying attention to my business, I feel like I can easily jump back into it. So
Love that.
just
Yeah,
go
that's
right.
great.
It's just a good flow. So I know that today I have theme days in my business. So today is like a Motivate Monday where I kind of get going into things. Tomorrow is Touch Base Tuesday. So I'll do all of my like emails and stuff. So I'm just able to kind of go back into the formula, and it's just allowing me really to be freer to be able to do my craft in the way that I want to and run my business the way I want to, making sure it fits into my life without having to rely on just chasing customers, trying to figure out what I'm doing. So I think that's probably how it's evolved the most. Is I feel more in control of the business. Like I'm guiding the business instead of letting the business tell me what to do. I'm kind of like, well, this is what I want to do with it. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, like for me personally, actually just someone the other day I was being interviewed and they were like, what are your revenue goals? And I was like, oh, I don't have revenue goals. I have life goals, like work less, be more productive in a shorter period of time, like, be outside more, have more like freedom. And I think maybe that's just also shows to like when you've been in business longer and you could do all those things, you could be like, making product all day, be online marketing all day, but it's sort of like you want more powerful results from less time. You know what I was thinking when you were talking about that, and I think people who run their own business know this, that you can work all the time, right? Like you could be working all the time and your nervous system just gets fried. It's like your brain never turns off. So it's a beautiful thing to hear about how like, you're able to kind of focus and have different days, and it just feels very calm, and you have a beautiful system that's working so well. One thing we didn't really touch upon, and again, I don't do a wonderful job really sharing how special it is, but what about sort of the people in the community? Like we have our coaching calls, we have our support calls where we answer questions, our extra training calls. But then with Pin Potential and the coaching, you also get access, there's other people on the calls, there's the community, and then our Facebook group that we have just for people who are in the program. Has that helped you at all, or do you feel like you take advantage of that?
Oh, it's absolutely helpful. What's really neat about it is, I think, and it's unique to your group, is we have people from makers to authors to coaches. I mean, we have everything. And so when you're in the community, people are looking at it like for instance, for me, it's nice to have people that aren't makers that can take a look at the business and they have different ideas and they're not so in that maker brain or that potter's brain. It's really nice to get that unique perspective. And I know, like, if I have a question for our coaching call and you're answering the coaching call, I also, at the end of it, I look over the chat and all these people have these great ideas for me. And I'm like, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good. Because I think we all just want to see each other succeed. So we want to just jump in and help when we can. And, some of their ideas have been out of the box for me. And it's been great to see that. So yeah, the community is great. And then outside of the coaching call, for instance, if I do like a blog post and I'm like, I don't know how this sounds, I can just put it on the Facebook group. And I always get feedback from several people. And, we all kind of get to know each other's businesses a little bit throughout this. So you start seeing those familiar names, and it's really, I enjoy that part. I think it's been a big part of it. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's where when we have the calls, like the coaching calls, like I'm there to provide, okay, well, I think this, or ask questions. But it's often the other community members who could be, like, I think it's really nice to get outside of your own business. I understand the value where people are like, I'm a handmade product business. I want to be in a program with only other people. But then you're lacking, like, I think one thing that's really beautiful is that you get people who could be your ideal customer, or they appreciate beautiful handmade ceramics and can offer you like, hey, I was thinking this, or have you thought about this keyword, or what about presenting it this way? I feel like people are just also very generous, in the sense of like, they're just like lovely and helpful. And if there's any feedback, it's very constructive. The community is made by the people who join the program, but I do think that we attract people who are like thoughtful and supportive. And nobody ever believes me when I say, they're like, well, who's in your group? I'm like, oh, we have a little bit of everything. Which really speaks to, that the tie together is that everyone's working on their online marketing. Beyond Pinterest, do you think that Pin Potential makes sense for other creatives, artists, handmade businesses who are looking to grow online and maybe they would need more help with their marketing? They want sort of that coaching. Do you think that Pin Potential is a good place for them?
Absolutely. Definitely. I honestly do not believe that my business would be where it is, going in the direction it's going, if I wasn't involved with Pin Potential. It has been the single best investment I've made in my business. And what's wonderful about it, I mean, I joined 2 or 3 years ago when I started, really doing it about a year ago, but, it's growing, it changes. It's an ever evolving program that is growing times. For instance, like AI has come into our world, and man, I've learned so much about it and how we can use that and how it's going to benefit us, and where it's maybe a little scary. And so it's nice to have a community that's growing and a course that's growing. So, I think, yes, we come for Pinterest, but as far as makers and creatives, I think we love that visual search engine, and it's a great way to show products. So for makers, it's a home run, but you get everything else to support the Pinterest part of it with the marketing. And I can't even tell you how many things I've learned. And it changes every week. It's like, oh, there's a new thing to learn, So it's great.
Yeah. So, well, and it's there for you even when you go on vacation and come back later. We always have replays. Well, Jill, I really appreciate you doing this part too. I think there are so many artists and makers that just aren't sure about what Pinterest looks like, or even when they look at a program like mine, they're kind of like, oh, she just teaches Pinterest. And, I have to get better at really sharing those success stories like yours of people who, continue to stay in the community and access the coaching and really the guest experts, the extra trainings. I think like the really big takeaway is that the way that I view supporting other business owners is that our businesses are holistic, and we want to look at the whole business, not just this siloed aspect. So when we think about Pinterest, it is most successful when it's thought about as part of your business in terms of, the content, the video, the website, the funnels, the products, all of that works together to be this harmonious, beautiful, sustainable way to grow your business. You're the perfect example of a dream student who's come, conquered, done the thing, and you keep learning and asking questions. And, I also love the feedback. Sometimes you're like, this wasn't quite so clear. Like, what does this mean for me? And I think we're all thinking that, but not everyone feels comfortable asking it. So you're a wonderful role model to the other people who are in the community as well. Jill, thank you for sharing your, experience with everyone. Tell everyone again where they can find you if they want to check out your beautiful pottery.
Chickabee Pottery at chickabeepottery.com, and you can find me on Pinterest and Instagram. Not really. Pretty much,
Sometimes.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Jill, for joining me again today. I hope you have an incredible day. Bye now.